Hey, how's it going, everybody? I'm not going to be very long. This is going to be a video that I just want to get people's opinion on this subject. The question really is: do you think it's worth going to a professional studio today? Now, and that's probably a loaded question. First of all, my name is Mark, and this is my YouTube channel. Thanks for watching. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. If you like the video content that I put out, I don't monetize my videos. To me, I don't like those annoying commercials in the middle of a video, especially if someone's talking about something and all of a sudden a commercial pops up. That, to me, that's disrespectful to me. A lot of people may not see it that way, but to me, it is. Because I know that when those commercials pop up, I know that the person that the YouTube, they've monetized the video, because I know everyone wants to get paid off their YouTube videos. That's why they do it. I'm not trying to I don't have nowhere near enough subscribers or enough views or enough comments or responses to make any money. So that's why I don't do it. If I had 1 million subscribers, I would monetize my videos, but I don't. I barely have I don't even have, I got maybe just under 1,400 subscribers. So, and even then, only 50 to 100 people watch my, I might get to a couple hundred people. And I guess some people that not subscribe, if it pops up, they see it. But anyhow, thanks for watching. So the question would be, is it worth going to a recording studio today? I would say that's kind of like a subjective question, but I would say that yes, if you're looking for the ultimate sound quality, yes. But here's the thing, and the experience too, especially from the engineer. They always have a crew, maintenance crew. They usually have top of the line gear and so forth. As far as software, the software doesn't make a difference whether you're doing it at home or not in a pro studio, because they're using the same software that most people use at home, like Pro Tools. And most of them use Pro Tools, but there's Logic, whatever. Like me, I am a Studio One, Cakewalk, Reaper, and Harrison Mixbus user. Those are my 4 go-to dolls. As far as plugins, professional studios are using the same plugins that you're using. They're using Waves or Slate or UADs or Soft Toys, Sound Toys, and so forth. Isotope, Plugin Alliance, Plugin Boutique. All these different, like me, I use IK Multimedias. I use their T-Rax Max, and I'm about to get their Mixbus. It's like the Slate, but they give you these 70 plugins it's like in a 500 series type of rack gear. But I'm gonna get that as well, because I like IK Multimedia stuff. I was impressed with their stuff. Excuse me. As far as and even when it comes to interfaces, the interfaces are really good today. Just about all of them. You pick one. It could be an Audient, it could be an M Audio, it could be Apollo, it can be. I'm using a Behringer. I have Presonus as well. I also have a couple other ones, a couple of small ones, a Focusrite, and a couple of them, but all of them are good. Some of them will come a reason why you should use one over the other. There are a lot of people like Apollo because they have their own DSP process. Same thing with Antelope. Antelope has its own DSP processing, which stands for Digital Signal Processing, in case you were wondering what DSP is. Digital Signal Processing. It's this ability to process it's like using an external video card instead of the video card built on the motherboard of your computer. Well, the motherboard of your computer usually have its own RAM, so you're not using the RAM of the computer itself. That way you're not pooling all your RAM resources. Well, it's the same thing with DSP processing for some of those audio interfaces. Even Behringer uses a network card system for like something like their Behringer X32. They have a separate DSP processing system for that. But what my point is that the audio interfaces themselves are so good today, almost all of them. So it's not the interface, it's not the software, and it's not the plugin. So what is separating a Pro Studio from a home studio? The only thing that's really separating a home studio and a professional studio is the space, the acoustics, meaning room isolation, noise isolation, and acoustics of the space. And a lot of times they're using consoles with outboard gear, and of course the choice of microphones and things like that. Preamps and microphones. Most people that are doing this stuff at home are not doing multi-track sessions with bands. Most people are just doing where they're recording one particular thing at a time. They'll come back and they'll layer their drum where they're using the drums out of a keyboard, drums out of a drum machine, virtual drums or whatever. They're recording that, and then they're mixing it and all that where it sounds, drum sounds or drum sounds, whether you use a real drum set or drums from a keyboard or whatever, drum machine or whatever. And other than that, most people are just recording their bass. They'll come back and they'll lay their drums, and they'll come back and they'll lay their bass. They'll come back and lay their guitar. They'll come back and lay their keyboards, and they'll come back and lay their instruments. But they'll layer one by one. They're doing one-on-one. So that's why even some of these consoles, they're only giving you a few preamps because you're not doing multi-band recording. That's the only real reason why most big studios need to have such a large console with so many preamps. It's because they're designed to record orchestras or bands, and sometimes they'll have as much as 20 microphones on one drum set. They'll have room mics, they'll have overheads, they'll have a mic on the top of the toms, type mic on the bottom of the toms, a top snare mic, a bottom snare mic. Three mics on the kick drum, one on the inside, one on the outside, and another one placed near it. And then they'll have mics all over to capture this fat drum sound. But there's tricks you can do in your home to do that. You can, especially like me, I have my some of my hallways are really tall, so I can get that bigger room sound because I have tall ceiling. That's the advantage. A lot of times the advantage, and then of course my house doesn't have, not all my walls are even. Some of my walls are slanted, so that's what helps with acoustics in my house. I just got, the house, the way it's designed, it wasn't designed to be a studio, but because I don't have even walls in every single room and the way it's set up, the room I use that to my advantage. So not everyone has a house or a place that they live. They can do that. Some people are in just a little maybe a little 1-bedroom apartment or 2-bedroom home or whatever, and it's in a bedroom with flat walls. Other than that, what else can I say? So the only downside to a Pro Studio is the cost and the time. Because when you go to a Pro Studio, those are the two biggest factors, and you have to realize, can I afford to be on a limited time, and can I afford their prices? In a lot of cases, some people that might be seeking out a studio, you might be better off seeking someone who has a home studio. There are people that got their home studios advertised, and there are people like me that don't have their home studios advertised. But then sometimes you'll be better off seeking, especially it depends on what you need done. You might have to go to a Pro Studio. Then there are people that got home studios set up that they can record a band. And you wouldn't be able to tell if it went to a Pro Studio or it was done at someone's home. There are some professional recording studios that are in houses. They just converted from a house into like the House of Blues in Nashville. Those are houses. They just convert them into studios. So the next question would be, so now we narrowed it down to the biggest three advantages that with today's technology has given people three advantages to doing stuff at home: software, plugins, and interfaces. So those are and believe it or not, those are the three crucial factors, other than knowing what you're doing as far as buying microphones, plugs, cords, monitors, maybe some outboard gear, console, and all this other stuff. But what else can I say? So the last question would be, three factors. Three factors would be like this. Budget. Can I afford to go to a pro studio? Your big artists actually can't afford to go to recording studios and be in there at 12-hour lockouts, every day because they got the budget. Like someone like Mariah Carey, who's a multi-millionaire, can afford to go to a pro studio where they have a large format SSL console and the top, they have, barefoot or focal monitors, Yamaha NS10 monitors. They got outboard gear. They got engineers. They got the recording space. They can get the session musicians and everything else because she can afford to pay up to $5,000 to $6,000 a day. She can write a check for that like it was nothing. But so it depends on your budget. Let's say most people that are independent artists that don't have Mariah Carey's budget money can't afford to do that. So most of the time, let's say you are a new artist or independent artist, you have to look at, can I afford to go to a pro studio and be on the clock and pay their prices? And I would say that 90% of the people there are people in the game that don't have Mariah Carey's budget. There are recording artists that, because what separates Mariah Carey from a lot of these other artists is she had writing agreements in her contract that allow her to be creatively write what she wants. And she's not going to have that way. But there are a lot of people that sign record contracts don't allow the artist to write their material. So that they can't write their material, so they have no control. So they just you're a contracted singer for hire. You're singing other people's songs, even though you're going to get the credit for singing the songs. You don't own the songs, and it gets into a whole I'm gonna make another video on Billboard and writing and royalties. That's gonna be a different video. But to end the video, because I don't want to make this long drawn out video, because I can be long winded. What I'm saying is, do you think that you should go to a pro studio, or should you build your own? The only downside to someone who builds their own studios is, do you know what you're doing? A lot of people, because you can really mess some stuff up trying to do this stuff at home if you don't know how to properly record, how to properly do all, you don't know anything about EQ, you don't know anything about acoustics, you don't know anything about mic placement, you don't know how to do any all the features of the software. You don't know how to use the plugins, because the plugins themselves are basically software versions of real pieces of hardware gear. So they're modeled to work like real pieces of gear. So if you do not know what you're doing with the software, you're definitely not going to know how to do it with a real piece of gear. They're designed to work the same way. And the way they work, they're going to sound the same way you work them. So if you don't know what you're doing, they're not going to sound good whether you use a real piece of gear or plug-in. Don't let the terminology of stuff fool people. People think, plug-in versus, you see hardware outboard gear, which we call, the real piece of gear in a rack. The plug-in is designed, they're going to work like a real piece of gear. So you have to know what that real piece of gear does to use it. So that's going to be the disadvantage to trying to learn to build a studio and do this yourself. And a lot of people, when they realize they don't know what they're doing, they'll get on YouTube and places like YouTube and find a lot of people, maybe people like myself, that know what we're doing, and try to get a lot of information out of it. Let me tell you, it takes a long. It was so many mistakes I was making over so many years, from so much. And maybe one of the advantages to an audio school, engineering school, is that you will learn a lot of stuff in audio engineering school faster. But the problem with audio engineering school is most people can't get a job. They spend almost $100,000 in tuition to go to school, and then they got this degree, and they got people like me that can do it because I would rather just spend my money on gear and software and just learn over the years. And I know what gear to buy, and I just learn, what compressors and how everything else. And that's how I learned. And believe it or not, half of what I learned, what they teach you in school, believe it or not, there's a lot of manuals that teach you the exact same thing a school would teach you. But the problem is a lot of people don't read the manuals when they buy gear. They see the manual, they don't want to take the time to read the manual. Even if it's just buying a microphone, you'd be surprised. A microphone manual for a piece of microphone might actually have some information on actually how to use it and how to place it for different scenarios. You buy a microphone, it tells you exactly where to place it when you put it on your kick drum versus where to place it, maybe on the 12th fret of a guitar, versus where to place it so many inches from a kick drum, or how to place it in front of a vocalist, and things like that. But a lot of people don't know that you can do that, and which polar pattern to set the microphone and all this stuff. See, in professional studios, they know this, but maybe I would tell anything. If you really want to learn your stuff, read your manuals. Your manuals tell you a lot of information. So that's going to wrap it up for this video. I just want to get people's opinion on, is it worth building your own home recording studio and saving your money and not worried about the clock, and risk, whether you have the experience or not, risk the experience and take the time to learn and do it yourself, or team up with some people that you might be able to team up with a home studio? Or should you just say, you know what, I can't compete with a pro studio, I just better go to a pro studio? And I'm going to end a video like this. There is a time and place for everything. If you had the money, if you had Mariah Carey's money as an example, and you do not want to take the time to learn how to do this yourself, and it's just easy to go to a recording studio, then I would say by all means go to a pro studio, because that's how thousands and thousands of artists did it when they were signed to record contracts. They had record contracts on the record labels. That's how everyone did it. They went to a pro studio, and they would do so many time like they wouldn't worry about, because they knew they had so many months, because they were given the budget, the advances. But this day and age, most people aren't giving advance. They're not getting advanced budgets. They're not getting budgets like that from record labels. So now that comes back to the main question: should I just build my own home recording studio, or should I seek out someone who has a home recording studio already ready to go and go that route? Because most of the time, if a person has a home recording studio and they have gear, especially gear like I have, is they going to be willing to pay the home recording studio price? For example, I could be as much as $150 an hour. Or I might be $25 an hour. Or I could be $50 an hour. Or $75 an hour. I'm not an open studio, so I don't have set prices. But there are some pro studios that charge $500 an hour. There's some studios that charge $500 a day. There's some recording studios that charge as much as $1,500 a day. It all varies. So now, am I going to charge $150 an hour? Probably not. Now, the next question would be, can I afford to go to someone's home studio? And do you think you're going to get the same result from someone's home recording studio versus a pro studio? And that boils down to reputation. The question is, what if you went to someone's home recording studio and they had a bunch of artists that you've never heard of? Then how do you gauge it? You go and they got like 25 different artists, but you've never heard of none of these artists. Then what? Do you take the risk of paying their prices and letting them do your music? Or should you just build your own? Some people don't have the knowledge to do it themselves. Some people buy gear. And then try, and then they realize they're just making so many mistakes. So that's the magic question. So I'm gonna wrap the video up. Our home recording studio, or basic, is it worth going to a pro studio? I would, like I said, if you got the budget and you don't have the time and patience or the experience or the knowledge, and you want the top quality sound, and you're not worried about the time that they're going to limit you to in a pro studio, because you're going to be limited to, like, most of them is 12 hours is the max you can be in there because they got so many clients. Should I go? Or should I just seek out someone's home recording studio? Or should I build my own? That's going to do it for this video. What do y'all think? Y'all have a great one.